Computer recording. Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're starting over because I forgot to put the record button on. Okay, so to start over, we should do it properly. The Dharma is incomparably profound and minutely subtle. It's rarely encountered in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We can now see it, hear it, and hold it. May we understand the Tathagata's true meaning. That's a good one, isn't it? To understand the Tathagata's true meaning. Good luck with that. Tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit of a continuation of last time, but a little wider scope. There are three poisons in Zen Buddhism we talk about. There's greed, hatred, and delusion. Okay, three. Very simple. Greed, hatred, and delusion. There are three antidotes: generosity, love, compassion, and wisdom, prajna. Tonight, I'd like to talk about greed. Greed is, I think, sometimes hard to define in a sense. We all seem to know what greed is, I think, in a general way. And we often assume it's about money, property, things like that. And sometimes it is, and most of the time I suspect it is. In fact, the Oxford English Dictionary defines greed as intense longing, inordinate longing, especially for wealth or food. Very simple. Avarice, covetousness, desire. And I made a little note here. It's all mine, mine, and all mine. And yours is mine and should be mine, and so forth. You know, greed is about accumulating and owning, accumulating and owning. And the emphasis on the last part, owning, not sharing. And to that end, I think I have something here we can, I hope I can put up. Let me see, share screen. Share that one. Okay. This is from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, which was edited by Paul Reps, but the content was from, what's his name? The Eloquent Silence guy, Senzaki. And I think this is an interesting story because it suggests something about greed that we don't usually think of as greed. Black-nosed Buddha. A nun who was searching for enlightenment made a statue of Buddha and covered it with gold leaf. Forgive the little thingies there. Apparently, when I scanned it, it didn't scan quite right. Wherever she went, she carried this golden Buddha with her. Years passed, and she was carrying her Buddha. The nun came to live in a small temple in a country where there were many Buddhas, each one with its own particular shrine. The nun wished to burn incense before her golden Buddha. Not liking the idea of the perfume straying to others, she devised a funnel through which the smoke would ascend only to her statue. This blackened the nose of the golden Buddha, making it especially ugly. I did this little rendering here for the sake of, whoops, I forgot where the camera is, for the sake of us. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a black-nosed Buddha, so to speak. And I got a little Buddha sitting in an enclave with incense coming up to his nose. And I said on here, share, what's share? We have a hard time sometimes with this, I think. I can drop this stop sharing thing down now. Y'all read it, right?
Yes.
Stop share, okay. The reason, I think one of the reasons this is a difficult concept, is that the antidote, generosity, doesn't quite catch it. it suggests that we should be generous. Yes, that's true. We talked about that last time. Generous with our money, with our food, with our with whatever we have, with our teaching. Don't be greedy, especially with the Dharma, and so on. But as you can tell from that story, greed goes a lot further than that. It's not just about our money or our food or things like that, but also about the things that we love, the things that we care for, the things like lighting incense and offering it to the world. We're offering that incense to the world. We're not keeping it as our own. We're offering even that scent to the world. That's generosity. To share our love and our compassion and the things that we value, even the things that aren't concrete, that aren't, like a drawing or something like that, or painting or money or whatever. So I think it's much more. It's like that prayer chant we just chanted. It's minutely subtle. This greed can be minutely subtle, and it can be hidden in lots of ways. Let me see if I can think of an example of that. Well, one example I think is sometimes overthinking a situation. You pull up at a gas station and somebody comes up to you and needs gas. Do you give him money for gas? Do you pump gas? Do you decide not to give him anything because he's going to go buy alcohol with it or drugs or something? We overthink the situation. In terms of our practice, we should simply be the manifestation of generosity, not the manifestation of greed, not the manifestation of this is mine and only mine. My heart is mine, only mine. My body is mine and only mine. My teaching is mine and only mine. And I want more of it. I want more. I want more. I want more. I need more. I need more. We're in a society right now that's kind of reeling from the fact that we can't buy everything we wanted. We can't go because lots of people are out of work. There's a scarcity of money and goods and things like that. And notice what happened with toilet paper. All of a sudden there wasn't any. All of a sudden there wasn't any paper towels. There wasn't any hand sanitizer. There wasn't any, all kinds of products were off the shelves. I remember going to Walmart and seeing empty shelves. I've never seen that before in my life. And there they were. And part of that was what? Greed. It's all mine. We're going to get it. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it. We're going to hoard it. We're going to control it, and so forth. That's a very sad state of affairs, seems to me. Because in that is a statement of the lack of cohesion of our society, the lack of cohesion within our community, even within our families. And I think that's devastating to our society in general, that when we get so frightened and so greedy that we keep everything and hoard it, what are we saying about our relationship to others? What are we saying about our care for our community? In a nutshell, we're saying we don't care. What we care about is us, ourselves, me, my wife, my kids, my family. That's not the Buddha way. Not at all. And so that nun's statue kind of said it all. It's ugly. Greed is ugly. It's toxic. It's a good reason it's listed as a poison. It's toxic. It's toxic to our social cohesion, to our understanding of each other and how we relate to each other and things like that. So I think that I think we have a lot of repair work to do right now. As followers of the Buddha way, we have an obligation, I think, to model uh, the antidote to greed, um, and in so doing, start to knit back together our social cohesion, um, help form a more generous and caring and compassionate society, even on a micro level. The neighborhood, for example. Um, just this morning or this afternoon, I got back from my training walk. Or no, before I got out there, actually, a couple of my neighbors were standing out in the cul-de-sac area talking, and I joined the conversation, sharing some connection with neighbors that I hadn't seen because of this virus. The one guy, one neighbor, I hardly ever see him. He's like a recluse, but he was out there, and so we began a conversation, and uh, he wanted to talk about all kinds of conspiracy theory stuff, and I was trying to offer a larger view, maybe put things in context, for example, things like that. And but we talked for quite some time, and that was good. That was good. It was a beginning step to connect again with my neighbors. Um, Many of us, I think, because of the COVID thing, are afraid to do that. We're afraid to make connections with people. Um, I'm hopeful that the vaccine uh, is going to help that, and the new guidelines that came out of CDC about we can get together in small groups now inside and stuff like that if we're vaccinated, and even if we're not, um, we should maintain some social distancing. But they didn't exclude non-vaccinated people from internal gatherings, as I recall. Um, so this is good. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I truly hope and pray that that the infection rate doesn't go up again as a result of this. I don't know that it will, because my sense at this point is that people are becoming much more afraid of the virus, much more conscientious about it. At least here, a lot of people are wearing masks. A lot of people are, even while they're exercising out in the desert. I passed a lady the other day out in the desert. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and she's got her mask on, and she like moves out about 20 feet and goes past us, and refused to talk. I, said, "Good afternoon. How you doing?" And nothing, not a word. She just kept going with her mask on. I'm thinking, you're out in the middle of the desert, for God's sakes. You're at least 20 feet away. What's the deal? But I understand. Fear is a powerful thing. Um, and I guess that goes back to greed again. I mean, what's one of the causes of greed? Why are we greedy? I think in a lot of ways we're greedy because we're afraid. We're afraid of losing something, losing what we have, and in losing what we have, we lose the possibility of our life. I mean, it goes back to a kind of almost a reptilian mind. If I don't have food, I'll die. If I don't have water, I'll die. If I don't have this, I'll die, and so on. And I think we kind of um, uh, expand that notion to everything else. If I don't have thousands of books, I'm not going to be smart. If I don't have a hot motorcycle, I'm not going to be cool. And so we attach to those things and we invest in those things as part of who we are. And so to lose them would be an attack on our very idea of ourselves, very concept of ourselves. And I think that's part of the thing behind greed is not so much the avarice side of it, but I got to keep this. I got to keep this. I can't share. Because I might lose it, and then lose myself in the process. So what do we do? what do we do? There's an old movie. What About Bob? I think it was called. And in there, the psychiatrist says to the patient, "You got to take baby steps, small steps, small steps." And I think that's wise advice, that we take baby steps toward reconnecting with people, toward becoming more generous, perhaps, and less greedy, less worried about sharing our things, or less anxious about it. And replace that with the good feelings that come with a sense of generosity, a sense of compassion for others, which is, I think, this highest good of us as a people in a group, is to be compassionate toward one another, and to care for the less fortunate, the people in need, and so on, and not be afraid that if we give something up, that we're going to give up everything, and we're going to lose everything, including our lives. So that's pretty much my Dharma talk. How do you feel about what I said? What do you think about what I said? And how do you feel about it? They're two different questions.
Well, I think you're right. You do need to start small, for one, and we need to start with ourselves, of course, because we have to set an example. But I think we also need to be careful to temper that generosity with wisdom, mm-hmm. and not allow ourselves to get carried away in our generosity. And
what would be an example of that?
Force it on other people. I think that sometimes we go out of our way to act a certain way. We want to be generous, and then we develop this attitude that other people aren't generous in return, and either we get angry at them, or we condemn them in some way, because they're not being the way that we think they should be, the way that we're being. And at the same time, that could cause us to bottle up, and we fall right back into that not being generous.
Yeah, good points. Very good points. So, to recap something about what you said, we should start off small, and not go overboard on our generosity.
Well, I don't think, and I think I've mentioned this before, I don't believe that there's a limit to our generosity. I think all of us are capable of far more generosity than any of us really take on. But I think that there is a limit to the forms, or the particular forms, of our generosity. You can't be so generous with your money that you end up homeless and your wife is, living on the street. Okay. You can't be so generous with your money. An example might be, you have a friend or a family member maybe who has a severe drug and alcohol problem. Mm-hmm. And he comes to you looking for money because he needs to go buy groceries. But you know that if you give him that money to go buy groceries for his family, that he's going to spend it on alcohol on the way home. Okay. So our generosity, we might say, well, I need to be generous, so here's $100. Whereas instead, we might take that generosity and change the form a little bit and say, let me take you to the store. Right. We'll spend this $100 on money for your family, and let's take it to your family.
Right.
There's no limit to generosity, but there could be a limit to the forms of our generosity.
I like that idea. It's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, I think sometimes that's my solution to the guy coming up to me at a gas station. Bring your car over and I'll pump the gas for you.
Right.
That's happened a few times. One time I was at a Walmart, and there was a gas station maybe a half a block away, and he was a fellow that said he needed gas, and I said, well, drive your car over to the gas station and I'll give you some gas. And he did. He had this old Cadillac that was sitting out in front of the Walmart, and he drove it over to the gas station. I pumped him some gas, and that was that. I mean, nothing more needed to be said. Other times, people have come up and asked for money for gas, and they don't have a car. So it's like, wait a minute, where's your car? Uh, but the beer is in the store, and so I don't know. But in those circumstances, I think two things. One, we do have to be careful with our assumptions. Um, one and two, if they're asking for money as opposed to asking for gas or food, I have less of a problem giving them money because it's not up to me what they spend it on. And I know there's an argument about enabling an alcoholic. Well, you know what? They're going to get alcohol somehow anyway.
Right.
And there's a possibility that they'll actually buy some food with that money.
Right.
But who am I to tell them that they can't buy alcohol if that's what they want, or to put it a different way, that's what they need. I'm less of a purist about that. I don't care. It's not that I don't care what they spend the money on. I just don't think they have their own mind that has to make up, that they need to decide, and I don't want to dehumanize them by taking away their autonomy. Yeah, that's one of the problems I have with people who rant and rave against the food stamp program, because they get in a line in a store and the food stamp person is buying steaks and they can't afford steaks themselves. And so they complain about the person buying steaks. Well, you know what? That's their choice. It's their food. It's their choice. We grant them money for food, and this is food. Now, they may choose to spend it on something expensive or not, but that's their choice. And if they run out of food stamps, then they run out of food stamps. I'm in no position to take that right away from them, nor do I want to be.
Right.
So I think, in fact, I think the argument about that is an argument from greed. I don't want them to have something because they didn't deserve it, or they don't, they didn't work for it, or whatever. So we have this sense of some kind of moral high road because we are working and we are earning the money and they are not. Right. There may be lots of reasons why they're not or can't that we don't know about. Reminded of, I was working as a food stamp worker in a rural county in South Carolina, and we had this one lady who would drive in once a month to renew her food stamps, and she would drive in with a Cadillac, a really nice Eldorado or whatever, some kind of big ass Cadillac, right. And she would bring a cake that she had baked and iced and everything as a thank you for us servicing her account and providing her with food stamps. But a lot of people complained about her. How can we give her food stamps when she's driving a nice new Cadillac? Well, we verified her poverty. The car wasn't an asset that you count against getting food stamps,
right?
Because everybody has to have a car. So, but she happened to have this car, and we checked all the bank accounts in the state. She didn't have any hidden money anywhere that we could find. We have to do investigations of the deservingness, so to speak, of the person. And she came up. She was a poor person. Plainly, she didn't have any money. So she deserved the food stamps, quote unquote. But the impression was that she didn't need them and that she had more than she was willing to say. But that's a funny thing about perception, isn't it? When we don't understand the full context of a person's life, we often make judgments about that person. And that's unfortunate because they're more often than not incorrect. You know, and that those incorrect assumptions seem to get in the way of our generosity. I don't know. Anyway, that's the talk for this evening. I hope everybody is well. Paul, I hope you're well. You just turned off your camera because you don't want to be seen. I get that. You guys are great. Thank you for coming in this evening and visiting with me and having the patience to listen to my rant. And I'll see you guys on Monday morning. Monday evening for the next Dharma Talk. If you have any ideas for Dharma Talks, let me know. Send me an email, something you'd like to hear my thoughts on. I'd love to be able to accommodate you. But I can't do that if you don't share what you need to hear. Okay. All right. Everybody okay? We're all good?
Yes.
Okay. No, anybody have any questions? I'll give you an opportunity. All right. Rattle my cage. Go ahead. Okay. All right, guys. I'll see you another time. Let me stop the recording here. Pause. Stop.